fishing hole. They filled up my pub. I can't get there. I went out for dinner, and there was a long line. The impacts of tourism were the kind of things they thought about. Or I've seen places ruined by tourism, and we should just put a gate and a fence around Montana and just don't let them in. Those were some of the responses they got. Not that it was widespread among the legislature, but that was some of the eye-openers that they had going, oh, we have been working so hard on all these things. This is how we view it. I guess you don't understand what we've been doing or what we're talking about. So there was an education process that took place during the legislative session. At the very end of the session, the last hearing for this piece of legislation, there were 70 proponents and 2 opponents. The 2 opponents happened to be the director of the department that I work for and the governor's budget office director. The legislation passed, but later it was vetoed by the governor on budgetary purposes, but the Tourism Advisory Council members who were involved in this process came back and said, I think we've got some education to do. We have to be working, if we're supposed to be advising the governor on tourism policy, how can we go in and make sure that the kind of things we're seeing are good for the state, that we can convince him and his budget office on how that can work. So that was the impetus for doing the Montana Tourism Charter. So when Montanans have an issue to resolve, when they've got things they need to get over, problems they need to solve, what do? Maybe the same thing you do in Alberta. You go fishing. Just get waist deep in a river and just let the current flow and work out your stuff. All right. Well, the Montana Tourism Advisory Council, some might have gone fishing, but they got together in a 2.5-day retreat and talked about, we're supposed to be advising the governor. We had an experience that the outcome is not what we were looking for. What do we need to do? What principles should we be working on so we can be giving him advice, giving direction, and providing the right kind of outcome for the kind of tourism we feel would benefit Montana? So during this process, they got together, 2.5-day period, invited the governor's office to come, as well as the budget office, our tourism directors, some Montana Office of Tourism staff. And they started talking about, well, what kind of tourism is it that we have in Montana right now? What kind of tourism is it that we want? They put together a set of principles, actions that they wanted to implement, and started to develop a wish list of things they were working on. After developing the wish list and putting in some statements, some background, then they went and approached the governor's office, state tourism agency, and other entities within Montana government and tribal governments around the state to say, here's some things we're thinking about in terms of the principles we'd like to work on for the development of tourism in Montana. They got feedback, they made some adjustments, and they finally got this to the point where they were able to endorse it as a council. A 15-member council endorsed the Montana Tourism and Recreation Charter. Then they took that charter out to the partners around the state of Montana, both tourism-related entities, some conservation groups, other NGOs, business organizations, the hospitality services, and asked them, did some education, and asked them to endorse the charter. They received 28 endorsements as they traveled around the state with the partnership. And here are just a quick review of what the principles are, and under each one of these principles there's some actions. The integrity of the place, again, back to the important reason, why are we here and why do people come to visit us? To keep a destination appeal also to that place. Promote and highlight the things that are unique to Montana and that are based on Montana, that are made by Montanans. Promote sustainable resource conservation. It's important for us to be taking care of the state, so although we're involved in tourism and recreation, that doesn't mean that we step back and say, well, someone else has to be the steward of what's around here. It's important to us, it's important to our activities, it's important to our sustainability, so get out there and either participate in or lead community stewardship partnerships. Talking about the geo-traveler, let's identify those markets out there that are the ones that are going to be coming here with the same kind of values we have and appreciate the same things we appreciate. In some ways, you can do the blanket and invite everyone, but not everyone's going to contribute to your benefit in tourism in the same way. And you may have some people that you invite, customers that you have that you need to fire, because they're not providing you the income, they're not providing you the benefits that you can get with another customer who comes in and really appreciates what you have, your distinct character. That's why they're there, and they're not there to tell you, well, they do it like this over here. I want that kind of experience. Well, they come and they enjoy the experience, and they're willing to support it and go away and sustain it as well, either through contributions or support, volunteerism, or various kind of activities. Another one of to foster diversity of those products and services, so you're serving that market, that geo-traveler out there that's coming in and shares the same kind of values that you have. Also, education of Montanans of what is sustainable tourism, so that we're able to ensure that visitor satisfaction, serve that geo-traveler, that Montanans understand the importance of it. People were talking the same language. The whole tourism and recreation industry, community development, arts, culture groups, were talking the same concepts, the same common language. Everyone was agreeing, this is where we want to go forward. It was accepted. People felt good because it allowed us to stay true to ourselves. We didn't have to change to make something successful. We just had to try and make ourselves better, improve, and share that information with others. And it's good business. The geo-traveler market we're looking at is about 20% of the US adult population and Western Canadian population. And this is a market that spends a disproportionate amount of their income on travel because that is what they appreciate, that makes them who they are, and that's the kind of thing that they do to keep themselves whole and adventure and experience and feel alive. Now, some of the things we've talked about the charter as being the talk that directs the walk. So some of the other things besides just that general agreement that this is how we like to, these are concepts that we agree with, we have our Montana Brand Initiative, which is focused on the geotourism market. That's directing our consumer marketing. It has those concepts in place. So we're telling a true story and marketing an experience that will be able to meet people's expectations and attract those people. Do the targeted marketing as opposed to the shotgun marketing. Travelers for Open Lands has been one of the results of the charter. And that's where the hospitality industry, hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts across Montanans have instituted asking their guests, would you be willing to provide us $1? And we're going to put that into a fund that's going to go out and help preserve open space in Montana. And so they've instituted this program. They work with the Montana Alliance of Land Trusts. They generate a fund. It's voluntary on the part of the lodging industry. They voluntarily ask their guests to voluntarily provide money, and it's been in operation since 2009. At the end of 2009, where they were able to reinvest $10,000 into 4 different open space projects around Montana. Once it gets up and running and gets larger, they anticipate they'll be able to generate maybe $1 million a year. That'll be able to be doled out to help preserve and keep open space, keep that spectacular landscape spectacular. The geotourism projects, we followed up the crown of the continent with a geotourism project in the greater Yellowstone region, where we worked with partners in Wyoming and Idaho, doing the same thing, highlighting what is special about the place and what are people doing to make it special, focusing on the gateway communities outside of the greater Yellowstone area. And we're talking about a third that'll cover our central and eastern portion of the state. And these are partnerships. We work with National Geographic and piggyback on their brand, as well as their expertise and their ability to market these areas as special areas. The Uncommon Sense program is a group that works around the greater Yellowstone area called the Yellowstone Business Partnership. They've been in business for about over a dozen years, and they've been really focused on trying to figure out how to make the gateway communities, the businesses in those communities around Yellowstone National Park and Grand Teton Park more sustainable. How do we extend this season? They have a winter and summer season there, but spring and fall, everything is off. How can we make it so there's 12 months here for these businesses? What can they do? They've been trying to approach that challenge. But they've created a program where they do sustainable tourism business training. And they work with individual businesses to look at how can you reduce your carbon footprint? How can you get greater efficiency with your use of energy, your water, your transportation? How can you handle waste remanagement? And that's what I thought about when Mike was giving his presentation on the bungalows, is how can you make it so you're not throwing away those little bottles of shampoo, but you have refillable bottles? I mean, one suggestion on how you do your waste remanagement. So they're looking at how can you improve your bottom line and be more sustainable, and be more, reduce your carbon footprint, be more light on the environment. Another one, we've heard about Dylan Boyle's Geotourism Handbook, something that is available to everyone free of charge. We also have the Top 10 Scenic Drives in the Northern Rockies, which is a promotional group that promotes